refinancing your retirement income. What does that mean? Have you heard of this term refinancing? Of course you have, but I'm talking about something a little different. I'm talking about your retirement income. This is really important for those that are thinking about retiring soon or that are currently retired. You have this income stream coming in, and things have changed recently in the financial world. So the question is, have you changed your retirement income plans? And should you? That's what we're going to talk about today. Let me bring in my co-host, Tony. Tony, welcome to the show. Always great to see you. So,
Always
what do you
great to
think?
be here.
Refinancing retirement. Have you ever heard this concept term? Am I making
I,
stuff up?
you, no, you're not making stuff up. I heard that just recently, though. I'm not exactly sure where you're headed with it, so I'm excited to hear what you mean when you say refinancing your retirement. But before we get into that, Dan, if you don't mind, I don't know if I've ever told you the story. It's a quick one about when I moved from Southern California to Nashville, Tennessee. I had to, if you make that drive, you have to drive through Arkansas, right? And
Okay.
so I'd never been to Arkansas. You know, you hear stories, but I was really needed to, I was tired. I'd driven all the way from Southern Cal. I get to Arkansas. I know there's Little Rock exits coming up, but I'm not going to make it quite that far. So I pull off in a small town and drive up to this cafe gas station, park. And as I'm getting out of my car, I'm walking toward the door and I stop because there's a group of men coming out the door. The large, huge hat, the tall black boots with the pants tucked in, guys 6'5", just mean looking state trooper or sheriff. I think it was an Arkansas trooper. And there's three guys in trooper uniforms behind him with the hats and the boots. But he's obviously the guy, big star badge. I mean, something out of a movie like Buford T. Justice. And I'm kind of put up, but then I'm like, I had a question. So I'm like, excuse me, maybe you can help me. Guys looks at me like, are you actually talking to me? And I've got California plates, right? And I'm wearing I believe I had a pink Izod shirt on. So mistake number one, right? Wrong. For Arkansas. But he looks at me and I say, I'm headed to Nashville and I'm trying to make it there by a certain time. Would you happen to know how long, since you're a state trooper, how long you would take to get from here to Nashville, Tennessee? And he looks at me and there's this big pregnant pause and he goes, kind of looks down at me and he goes, that all depends on how fast you're planning on driving, son. I got goosebumps. That's all he
I
said.
love
He
it.
kind of he's just trying to put the fear guy. That all plans on how fast you're planning on driving, son. That was it. I mean, that's the story, but I was
I'm
scared.
assuming you slowed down.
I drove the speed limit the rest of the way.
Which, again, the beauty of the show is I never know what's going to come out of your mouth, and it's usually dribble, and I may cut that, but we don't know. But thinking about it this way,
You
Tony,
may
you're
cut
driving
that.
along. You're driving along to Nashville. You got your plan,
Yeah.
right, from California,
Yeah.
which we're not going to question your life choices, but so far so bad. So then, what's happened is the speed limit changed. Let's imagine that. We've seen speed trap towns. We got them in North Central Florida.
Yeah. Sure.
You go in 55, 65, and then all of a sudden it goes to 35, like that. And what do? If you're not paying attention, you'll just keep going straight as you will. And
Yep.
then the blue lights will come on right behind me.
Yep.
And you get that sinking feeling.
Mm-hmm.
What happened to you was a gift. The guy said,
Yeah.
hey, pay attention because
That
we're
was
here.
a gift.
So what's happening now in relating this to the finances, people are driving along with the retirement income plans. They may have
Yep.
just made them 2 years ago, 5 years ago. They're just making them now. And they are cruising, right? But rates have changed, interest rates. And if you're not paying attention, you'll just keep cruising and you'll be missing out. And so the question is it time to refinance, to figure out what you should be doing differently in this interest rate environment when it comes to retirement income, because a lot of people are on cruise control with their retirement. They're just not
Right.
thinking about it. But here I am today to tell us we need to rethink it. So,
Okay.
in the spirit of the Arkansas story or the Nashville trip that you were on, moving your life, this is our
All right.
chance to talk to the state trooper, right? So I'm the
All right.
state trooper in this scenario.
Okay.
Let's see how long I can keep this analogy going. Okay. So,
Yeah.
Tony,
Milk it.
we've heard about refinancing a house. In fact, we did a show recently on keeping a mortgage in retirement. And I talked about that, how it's not the end of the world for people. But let's play this out. So you have a home loan on your home, and let's call it at 2.5%, right? You're not going to refinance it in today's environment and get 6% rate. That just doesn't make sense. And people understand that. But let's say you're the bank in this situation and you loaned Tony $200,000 at 2.5%. Wouldn't it be nice if you were the bank, if you could call up Tony and say, hey, Tony, guess what? Rates changed. You're now going to be paying 6%. And you'll say, well, wait. I'm paying 2.5. Why? No, new rules. I'm refinancing on you because I'm the bank and we're going to do that. Don't you think every bank in the world would do that?
Well, sure. Yeah, and it's called an ARM.
Yeah. Adjustable rate mortgage, right? So let's say yours is a fixed rate. And for a lot
Yeah.
of people on retirement, they have a fixed rate. They have a fixed plan.
Yeah.
And there's an opportunity for them to refinance. Now, you can't do that as a bank on a fixed rate. You can't just say, hey, I sold you a 30-year loan at 2.5, but rate's more than doubled. Here you go, right? You can't do that. But
Nope.
for retirement income plans, you can, and you should. You could be the best because let's take it and let's talk about what retirement income is. We got Social Security, rental income, savings, bonds, annuities. Let's start with the simplest one. Well, Social Security you can't refinance. You can't. You can delay it and get that increasing income, but you can't renegotiate your Social Security terms with the government. You can't be like, hey, give me more. Rates are high. They give you a cost of living adjustment, a COLA every year. So that is a way of changing your income. But for other types of income, you don't really think about renegotiating or getting that cost of living increase. Rental income, you can raise rents. I have some clients that have rental income and they're charging the same rent that they have charged because they're saying, I don't want to raise rent. I don't want to be the bad, evil landlord. I don't want to have them leave and then I have to find someone new. But if you look at rents, and in Florida, it's out of control. I'm sure it's the same across the country, Minnesota included.
Yep.
If you're a landlord and you're charging the same rent that you were charging in 2016, 2017, 18, you're kind of missing the boat on this,
Right.
right? Rents have gone up. So you would
So if you're
renegotiate
using
that.
that for retirement income, what you're saying is you can increase it.
You should. You should. Now, how much you increase it is up to you and market rates and so forth. But if you just are complacent on cruise control, you're going to get pulled over or you're going to miss out on
Yeah.
income. And so you should be renegotiating, refinancing your rental income. Now, let's talk about something that most people have, which is savings,
Yeah.
particularly retirees. I went before the show, I went online to my bank. I'm not going to name the name, but it's one everyone's heard of. It's one of the biggest in the country.
Sure.
How much do you think I'm getting on my savings accounts at the bank? Now, keep in mind, I have my business accounts, personal accounts, all this money there, at least 20,000. And then I looked and said, if I have 50,000 or 100,000, what do you think the interest rate is that I'm getting on my savings at the big bank right now? If you had a guess, we're in October of 2023.
1%, 2%.
No, not even close. I am getting 0.01%.
Yeah, well, a lot of savings accounts don't have any interest. They don't even
Right,
give you
right.
any interest. Yeah, some
So
don't give
how
you
can you
any.
possibly call it a savings account? How can you call that a savings account? So, um, you can look on these
It's just
banks.
like
You see it all
putting
the
it
time.
under your mattress. at that point.
Right. The only value to putting it in the bank versus on your mattress, you don't have to worry about theft or the
Yeah.
house going on fire. Then again, the bank collapsed. But my point is, I have all this money sitting there making nothing. Now,
Mm.
I need it for liquidity and paying bills and so forth. But for a lot of retirees, they like to keep a nice chunk of change for emergencies in their savings. What is preventing them from renegotiating? Instead of calling it refinance, maybe we call it renegotiate. Renegotiate their income, renegotiate their interest on this. They could buy a CD. They can get a high yield savings account. You could get 4% on a high yield savings account right now. Why not? It's a pain. I got to go to different banks. So, but if you think about it, if you got 50,000 sitting in savings, that's $4,000 a year
Right.
that you're foregoing. That's not chump change. That's $400 a month. That's right. And people were so complacent about this because rates have been so low for so long.
Yeah.
People retired when rates were at below 1%, and they've been retired for 10 years, and the rates are still below 1% until recently. So you need to reflect on this and improve your savings rate, refinance your savings rate. And it's probably going to be going to a different bank or getting a CD. We just did a show on short-term rates. We did a show recently on short-term rates. So watch that show. We give some ideas on what's going on there. So that's an easy one, and people get that. But you know what happens when I tell people, hey, you know what, you got 30,000 sitting over there. You should probably put it over here and get 4% more interest. You know what they say? What would you guess people say to that?
I don't know. They just don't want to do it.
Why not?
Not enough.
Right.
That's not worth it to me.
It's not worth the hassle.
That's what they say.
And I'm thinking to myself, why not? And this is what the banks are loving.
It's because they're not
you
seeing
get
the big
zero.
picture. 4% doesn't sound like much, but the compounding interest will make a difference.
Exactly. And it's not like you're not going to have access to it. We're not telling you to buy something and lock it in. You just put it at a different bank paying more. And it won't
Right.
last forever. But why not? It's complacency. But it's also, if you think about all right, you're going to go buy furniture. They're going to give you 0% interest for a year, right? Do you think they're doing that out of the goodness of their heart? Now it's costing them more. It's costing them more to do that because it used to be, what if they pay me now, am I going to get 1% on it? But now they can get 4% on it. But 0% interest, what are they really giving you? They're giving you a free loan, but what they're really hoping for is that you forget about it and you can't pay it off because as soon as 0% runs out, it's 25% interest.
Right.
So they're banking on people being complacent, forgetting, and just being lazy. And so I'm telling people to rethink this. Now, that's simple. That's a simple answer. And refinancing your savings is very simple. People still don't want to do it, but that's not for some people, it's not a lot of money. So they're like, what's the bonds are a different story. So a lot of people have bonds for income. And what happens when interest rates go up? Typically, bond prices go down.
Yep.
2022 was the worst year for bonds, potentially, I think, in history. Right? Bond prices went down. Why? Because we went to fundamentally zero interest rates to highest interest rates we've seen in 13 years or beyond. So what happened is people bought bonds for retirement income. Give me my 2%. I'm happy. 2%. And at the time, and it's not that long ago, rates didn't start coming up until 2022. You could buy a bond portfolio in 2020 and at 2%, and you'd be like, I got a good deal. I'm getting 2% on my bonds. And you're happy. And it's giving me my income. It's a solid income. These bonds are high quality bonds giving me what I need, right? But now you could get that same quality bond paying more than double the rate. Whereas bonds used to pay 2%, now they're paying 4, 5. You could get treasuries, US treasuries, paying close to 5%. So the question is, why not refinance your bond portfolio?
Right. I just saw a big article on bonds and treasuries and how they're up. So
let's look at it from the US. Think about this. We have a ton of debt, right? 33 trillion. Should do a show on that. A lot of that, most of it, I say probably close 70, 80% of it is debt that the U.S. issued at low rates, less than 2-3%.
Right.
Now, new debt, now that's coming due, right? So they have to issue new debt, but no one's going to take it at 2%. They're going to say, I'll buy it at 5%. So what's happening is the U.S. is paying interest at more and more higher rates. So they're struggling here. The reverse now, people that bought bonds at 2% can buy new bonds at 4%. The problem is, though, Tony, and this is where it gets really difficult for bondholders, is you might have bought a bond, say you bought a 5-year bond at 2%. And the way that works is it's going to give you 2% a year, and then after 5 years, you get your principal. Say you bought it for $1,000, no one's going to buy that bond from you for $1,000. Why would they? Yeah. They could buy a new bond paying 4%. Why would they buy your bond paying 2%? They'll buy it from you, but at a discount. So when you look at your statement, your bond prices have gone down. The income's still there, right? It's still 2% on the original investment, say $1,000. You're still getting 2% on that, but you have to hold it to maturity now, because if you try and sell it, what are you going to get? What are you going to get for it? The bond market price is all the same.
Basically, but I mean, you're not stuck because you can wait until it matures.
You could wait till it matures, or you could sell it if you see there's an arbitrage. There's a chance.
But you can't really
sell
refinance
it at a loss. Right. But you'd be selling it at a loss and buying a new one. What's the gain? Does it make sense? So what you hear a lot of people do, and a lot of retirees, and maybe you're the one watching this show, you have a bond ladder. And what that means is you bought bonds at different maturities. So they come due, kind of like a CD ladder, same thing, except with CDs, you're not selling it at a loss. You're just giving interest back 6 months or 3 months or a year of interest.
Right.
And that's an easier math to do. But it's the same concept. You have to do the cost benefit analysis on a bond portfolio. The bond portfolio you bought in the past can be improved. Maybe. It just depends on what you bought and how long the maturities are.
Yeah.
But you need to look. You can't just sit on your old bond portfolio and just let it ride. You have to review this and say, can I improve my income? Can I refinance these? Can I renegotiate? Maybe that's a better term. Can I renegotiate the interest I'm getting on my bonds?
Yeah, because it's hard to sit on the sidelines with these bonds that are only earning 2%, knowing you've got 3 more years. So you're getting 2%, knowing you got 3 more years, but you could get bonds right now at 5 or 6, whatever it is, 5%. And so you're like, wow, that's an additional 3% in compounding interest I could be earning on top of the 2 I'm already getting.
Right.
So that's tough, but you're kind of stuck because you'd have to sell the bonds and you'd have to sell them at a loss, like you say. I get it. That's a tough situation. It's that FOMO when the interest rates go up and you're stuck earning low interest. That's a tough thing, but obviously working with somebody like yourself, a trusted financial services professional who can sit down, do the math with you and say, can we refinance? Does it make sense?
Yeah. And same with annuities, fixed annuities I'm talking about. The interest rate, I locked in a 5-year at 2.4 2 years ago. I thought I was a genius. Now you can get a 5-year at, 5.5, right? Or close to it. I know you could get 6% for 10 years right now. Do you want it? I don't know. Maybe. But 2 years ago, if you said, I'll give you 6%, people would have clamored for it.
Oh, yeah.
What's the catch, right? So you got to look at these and say, does it make sense for me to flip it, to get out? Probably, it's probably not. When it comes to annuities, there's surrender charges. But like CDs, I see this all the time. People, I got a CD maturing and I still got another year on it. It's paying you 1.1%. You can get it, and you're going to forego that interest, right? The mentality is, I got to wait till it matures. No, you don't have to. You could talk. You could think. You don't have to. You don't actually do something. You could do the math. So I'm telling people, you got to redo the math. Do the math on your annuities, your fixed annuities, your bonds, your savings, your CDs. You got to do the math. So
or a MIGA too. right? Aren't MIGAs
Yeah, multi-year guarantee
similar
annuity. Yeah.
similar to a CD, but it's a type of annuity called a multi-year guaranteed annuity. I know a lot of people, when interest rates started going up, started getting MIGAs because the interest rates were so much better than typical CDs or annuities, right?
I remember I had a client in I think it was 2012, and we were reinvesting her cash, and she's like, I want a fixed rate, I want a MIGA. And I'm like, well, what are you gonna? She's like, I got a CD coming due, and it was paying her 6%.
Oh,
6%.
wow.
And I'm like, what is this? She's like, I bought a 10-year CD. I forget when she bought it, say 2007 or something like that, or whatever. I forget what it was, maybe a 5-year CD. Bottom line is she bought it years prior. And at the time she bought it, people were like, you're a fool. Why would you buy that? I can get 12% over here, right? And fast forward to when rates plummeted, then she's like, look at this. And I don't want to give it up. A tear came down her eye when the thing matured
Yeah.
because she could only get 1.25 versus the 6 she was getting. So, yes, MIGAs are part of that. You need to rethink this. Now, another quick thing about annuities, a lot of people use annuities for income. They get them immediate income. They call them SPIAs, or single premium immediate annuities. Kind of like should I take the lump sum or the pension? That math is changing now too. You need to rethink that. Just because it used to be you should, with a pension, hey, take the pension because it's going to pay you a lot more than if you go shopping in the rest of the universe for an annuity. That's changed. I'm finding more and more people are getting a better rate by taking a lump sum and shopping it than they would get if they took the pension from their company. It's an
So that's
interesting
flipped.
dynamic with this. Yeah, it's flipping. It's
A
flipping
lot of
because
things
these
have
interest rates
inverted.
are so high.
Not only was the yield curve inverted, a
Mhm.
lot of things regarding
Yeah,
investments have inverted, haven't they?
they have. I want to show a my screen. I have a chart I want to show you that I think is very interesting in this environment. It's this is the Fed funds rates, the projections. Okay, you could see. Can you see that chart, Tony? 2022 on the left here.
I can, and
Um,
for our video viewers, they'll be able to see that. I can see the chart.
yeah, so we're close to 0% in terms of the interest rate in 2022. At the beginning of 2022,
Yep,
right? Zero. You remember this?
yep,
How much? 1% CD was all right. I guess
yep,
that's what I got.
yep.
Then, as 2022 advanced, you see we went to 1%, 2%, 3%, 4%. And then at 2023, we were above 4. And here we are above 5. Now, those little stars here are projecting where the Fed is projecting where their rates will be. And now, October 2023, we're looking at, well, the projections are rates are going to come down and go back to normal, which would be less, closer to 3, 4, right? So
Yeah.
we may have been peaked here. And this is a Morningstar um, chart. So you can go and look at this yourself. These are 3 different charts combined into one. But you could see that a lot of the projections, and now what's going to happen, no one knows. But a
Right.
lot of the projections from these so-called experts and the Fed are the rates will be dropping at some point in the near future. So we may be at a peak here. We may be. Now, I don't know if we will be, but we could
Right.
be at a peak where interest rates are so high. The idea of locking in a longer term, what do I mean by that? 3, 4, 5, 10 years at 6% or 5%, it may be a really interesting decision because fast forward 3 years from now, and maybe rates are at 3. I don't know, but you'll be laughing to the bank with that, and the bank will be like, hey, I want to refinance that, but I can't. It'll be laughing just like you bought the 2.5% mortgage, you got the 6% CD. Interestingly enough, this could be the tipping point. I don't know, but what I can say, it's time to look.
Yeah.
It's time to consider that fixed rates are at a point where historically we're at highs. Could they keep going up? And you say, glad I didn't lock in? Yeah, that could. So you want to be thinking about this. Be strategic. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Don't say, I'm buying everything, selling the house, buying a 10-year MIGA at 6%. And that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying you need to think about refinancing your current income to get better rates, to capitalize on these better rates. Because as rates rise, so too should your income. So
Yes.
too should your return on your investments. That's just basic. So time to revisit these.
Good show. Good point. Refinance that retirement income.
Yeah. At the same time, as always, pay off any high rate interests you have. If you're thinking
Yes.
about buying a CD for 5%, but you got a credit card bill you're paying 15.5% on or 20% on, don't buy the CD. Pay off the interest on the credit card.
Right.
Oh,
Right.
I always want to say that because people, I can get 5% on a CD. I could buy a multi-year annuity for lock in 5.5 for 6 years.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't I do that? Well, pay off your debts. Pay off your debts first, And as always, you got to have liquidity. So there's a lot of moving parts here, but it's worth looking at if you haven't in a while. Don't just be complacent and keep driving what you think is a speed limit and drive right into a speed trap. The next thing you know, you're standing outside your car as you're getting pat down by the Nashville County Sheriff. I don't even know I don't know if it's called Nashville County. Making stuff up, Tony, as we go. All right, Tony. Thanks again for a good show. I hope you all have a wonderful week, and we'll catch you, in a week? That's
All
what
right.
we've been doing, right? Once a week. Hey, subscribe if you haven't, because you'll get a bell. You'll get a notice when the new show comes out, so you can't miss us.
Awesome.
Have a good week, everybody.
All matters discussed in today's show are for informational purposes only.
This show is not investment advice.
Dan Riddle nor Dolphin Financial Group are affiliated or endorsed by any government agency.
Investment advisory services are offered through Dolphin Wealth Management, Inc., a registered investment advisor in the state of Florida.
Insurance products and services are offered through Dolphin Insurance, Inc.
Dolphin Wealth Management, Inc. and Dolphin Insurance, Inc. are affiliated companies doing businesses as Dolphin Financial Group.
You should talk to someone at Dolphin Financial Group before implementing any of these strategies or ideas.